Captain Maya Thompson stared at the navigation screen with growing confusion. The deep space sensors on her ship showed something that should not exist. Where empty space should stretch for light years, hundreds of massive shapes floated in the darkness. She rubbed her tired eyes and looked again. The objects were still there. Maya commanded the exploration vessel UES Horizon. For 3 months, her crew had been mapping the outer rim territories, looking for new planets and resources. It was routine work, mostly boring, but someone had to do it. Today felt different, though. Today they had found something impossible. "Commander Lisa Park, please come to the bridge," Maya spoke into her communication device. Lisa was her second in command, and the best engineer Maya had ever worked with. If anyone could make sense of what they were seeing, it would be Lisa. Lisa arrived quickly, her short black hair still messy from sleep. She had been resting after a 12-hour shift in the engine room. "What's the emergency, Captain?" she asked, then stopped when she saw the display screen. "Are those ships?" Lisa whispered, moving closer to get a better look. Maya nodded slowly. "That's what I want to know. The computer says there are over 300 objects out there. They're big, Lisa. Some of them are larger than our entire space station back home." Dr. Helen Rivers joined them on the bridge. She was the ship's scientist, an expert in studying alien life and ancient cultures. Helen was always excited about new discoveries, but even she looked shocked at what the sensors showed. "How long have they been there?" Helen asked, adjusting her glasses as she studied the readings. "Unknown," Maya replied. "The computer estimates they've been drifting for at least 3,000 years. Maybe longer. There are no energy signatures, no life signs. Nothing. They appear to be completely dead." Lisa worked at her station, trying to get clearer images. "Captain, you need to see this. I'm getting 3 different ship designs. Look at this first group. The hulls are curved and smooth, almost like they grew instead of being built. The second group has ships made of some kind of crystal material. The third group looks more familiar, but their weapons are much more advanced than anything we've ever seen." Maya felt a chill run down her spine. 3 different types of ships meant 3 different species had worked together. In all of human history, they had never seen aliens cooperate on such a massive scale. Most alien races barely tolerated each other, let alone built fleets together. "Dr. Rivers, what do you think?" Maya asked. Helen was already running calculations on her portable computer. "The metal composition is unlike anything in our databases. The crystal ships are giving off very faint energy readings, almost like they're sleeping rather than dead. And the organic-looking vessels have biological components mixed with technology." Maya made her decision. "We're going in for a closer look. Lisa, take us to one of the smaller ships, something that looks less dangerous." The Horizon moved slowly through the massive graveyard of ships. Up close, the vessels were even more impressive. The smallest ship they could find was still twice the size of their own vessel. Its hull was a beautiful silver color with flowing lines that reminded Maya of wind patterns. "Captain, I'm detecting 2 very weak life signs," Helen announced, her voice excited. "They're coming from inside that crystal ship over there." Maya's heart started beating faster. "Are you sure? After 3,000 years? The readings are faint, but consistent with suspended animation." "Someone is alive in there, Captain." Maya knew this moment would change everything. Finding ancient alien technology was one thing. Finding living aliens who had been asleep for thousands of years was something completely different. Earth would want to know immediately. The military would want to take control. Scientists would want to study everything. "Lisa, can we dock with that crystal ship safely?" Maya asked. Lisa studied the readings carefully. "It should be possible. The ship has docking ports that look compatible with our systems. It's almost like they were designed to work with human technology, which is strange." "Prepare an away team," Maya ordered. "Dr. Rivers, you're with me. Lisa, you have the bridge. If anything goes wrong, jump back to Earth immediately and report what we found." Maya and Helen put on their spacesuits and crossed into the crystal ship through the docking tunnel. The inside was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. The walls were made of the same crystal material as the hull, glowing softly with inner light. Everything was much larger than human size, built for beings who were taller and probably stronger. They followed Helen's scanner toward the life signs. The ship's corridors were filled with strange artwork and symbols that neither woman could read. Some areas looked like they had been damaged by weapons fire long ago. Finally, they reached a large chamber filled with dozens of stasis pods. Most were dark and empty, but two still hummed with quiet energy. Inside the active pods, Maya and Helen could see two figures sleeping peacefully. The first pod contained a woman who looked almost human, but her ears were pointed and her features were more delicate. Her hair was long and silver, and her skin had a slight glow to it. She wore clothes that seemed to be made of some kind of advanced fabric. The second pod held something definitely not human. The being inside was reptilian, with scales that shifted color even in sleep. She was tall and muscular, with clawed hands and sharp teeth visible through slightly parted lips. Her armor looked advanced and battle-tested. An elf and some kind of reptilian alien, Helen whispered. Maya, this is the discovery of the century. Maybe the millennium. Maya stared at the two sleeping women. They looked peaceful, unaware that their entire civilization had apparently vanished while they slept. Can we wake them safely? Helen checked her scanner readings. The pods are still functioning perfectly. I think I can activate the revival sequence, but, Captain, we have no idea what we're dealing with. These beings might be hostile. They might carry diseases. They might not even be able to survive in our atmosphere. Maya thought about all the risks. She thought about her duty to her crew and to Earth. She thought about the massive fleet floating silently around them, full of technology that could change human civilization forever. But mostly, she thought about two women who had been sleeping alone in the darkness for thousands of years. Wake them up, she decided. If they're hostile, we'll deal with it. But they deserve to know what happened to their people. They deserve to know they're not alone anymore. Helen began working with the pod controls, which responded to her touch as if they recognized human hands. The revival process started slowly, and Maya watched as the two ancient women began to stir after their incredibly long sleep. The elf woman opened her eyes first. They were a deep green color that seemed to hold starlight. She sat up slowly in the stasis pod, looking around with confusion. When she saw Maya and Helen in their spacesuits, she spoke in a voice that sounded like music. "Are you the new Guardians?" she asked in perfect English. "Have the Devourers finally been defeated?" Maya was shocked that the woman could speak their language. "We're humans from Earth. I'm Captain Maya Thompson. Can you understand me?" The elf woman nodded, touching a small crystal device on her forehead. "My memory implant contains thousands of languages. Humans, yes. I remember your species. You were the founders of the Alliance." She looked around the chamber with growing sadness. "But this place feels wrong. How long have we been sleeping?" Before Maya could answer, the reptilian woman's pod opened with a soft hiss. She moved like a predator, instantly alert and ready for danger. Her scales shifted to a dark red color as she spotted Maya and Helen. When she spoke, her voice was deep and strong. "Unknown species detected. State your intentions," the reptilian woman said, her hand moving toward a weapon that was no longer there. The elf woman spoke quickly in a language Maya had never heard. The reptilian woman's scales shifted to a calmer blue color, and she relaxed slightly. "These are humans, Zaraketh," the elf said. "They found us. I think something terrible has happened." Zaraketh studied Maya and Helen carefully. "Humans. Your people were good allies once. I am Zaraketh of the Nexari Collective. This is Lirelai Starweaver of the Elven Domains." She looked around the empty chamber. "Where are the others? Where is Commander Rodriguez? Where is Captain Singh?" Maya felt her heart sink. These women expected to find their friends and allies. They had no idea that everyone they knew was gone. "I'm sorry," Maya said gently. "We found this fleet drifting in space. You two were the only life signs we detected. According to our estimates, you've been asleep for over 3,000 years. Lyralei's face went pale. Zaraketh's scales shifted through several colors before settling on a deep purple that Maya guessed meant shock or grief. 3,000 years, Lirelai whispered. "Then it's over. The war is over and we lost." Maya and Helen helped the two women return to the UES horizon. Dr. Helen Rivers ran medical scans while Maya tried to learn what had happened to create this massive graveyard of ships. Both women were physically healthy, though they needed time to adjust after their long sleep. Lirelei sat quietly in the ship's medical bay, staring at nothing. Occasionally, she would touch the crystal device on her forehead and her eyes would glow briefly. Zaraketh paced like a caged animal, her scales constantly shifting colors as different emotions passed through her. "Can you tell us about the war?" Maya asked carefully. "What were you fighting?" Zaraketh stopped pacing and looked directly at Maya. "We called them the Devourers. They were not like any species we had ever encountered. They consumed entire worlds, leaving nothing behind but empty rock, not just the plants and animals, but the very essence of life itself." Lirelei spoke without looking up. "They appeared in our galaxy about 4,000 years ago. At first, we thought they were just another aggressive species that could be reasoned with or defeated in normal warfare. We were wrong. The Devourers were a hive mind," Zaraketh continued. "Billions of individual creatures controlled by a single intelligence. They learned from every battle, adapted to every weapon we used against them. Traditional warfare was useless." Maya felt a chill. "What happened to your alliance?" "The Triad Alliance was the greatest cooperation between species that had ever existed," Lirelei said, finally looking at Maya. "Humans, elves, Nexari, and dozens of other races working together. Your people were the ones who made it possible. Humans had a gift for bringing different species together, for finding common ground where others saw only differences. We fought the Devourers for over 1,000 years, Zaraketh added. We won many battles, saved many worlds, but they kept coming. For every Devourer ship we destroyed, 10 more appeared. They were slowly winning through pure numbers." Helen looked up from her medical equipment. "What was your plan? Why were you in stasis?" Lirelei touched her memory crystal again. "The fleet you found was our last resort. We gathered the most advanced ships and weapons from all our member species. The plan was to use this fleet as a final defensive line while the civilian populations evacuated to other galaxies. I was a strategic coordinator for the Nexari military," Zaraketh explained. "Lirelei was a diplomatic envoy with access to classified Alliance databases. We were put in stasis to survive until the evacuation was complete, then wake up to help. Coordinate the final battle." Maya began to understand the tragedy. "But the evacuation never happened." "Something went wrong," Lirelei said quietly. "The fleet is here, but there's no sign of the civilian ships that should have followed. Either the Devourers prevented the evacuation, or—" She couldn't finish the sentence. Zaraketh completed the thought. "Or our people are all dead, and we're the only survivors of the greatest civilization the galaxy has ever known." Maya felt the weight of responsibility settling on her shoulders. These two women represented the last remnants of an ancient alliance. They had knowledge and technology that could benefit all of humanity, but they were also grieving the loss of everything they had ever known. "There's something else you need to know," Maya said carefully. "We've detected energy signatures on the edge of our galaxy, ships that match the descriptions you've given us of Devourer vessels. They're still out there, and they're moving in our direction." Both women went very still. Lirelei's crystal device began glowing brighter, and Zaraketh's scales turned a color Maya had not seen before, a deep black with red edges. "How long until they reach inhabited systems?" Zaraketh asked, her voice calm but deadly serious. Maya consulted her datapad. "Our scientists estimate 6 months to a year, depending on their speed." Lirelei stood up suddenly, her movements graceful despite her recent awakening. "Then we have work to do. Captain Thompson, how advanced is human technology now? How many ships do you have? How many allies?" "We have maybe 1,000 warships total," Maya admitted. "We've made contact with a few alien species, but most relationships are still new and uncertain. Our weapons are probably more advanced than they were in your time, but nothing like what I've seen on these ancient ships." Zaraketh moved to the medical bay's window and stared out at the massive fleet. 1,000 ships against a hive mind that consumed our entire galaxy. "Captain, your people are going to need help." "Can this fleet still function?" Maya asked. "Can the ships be reactivated?" Lirelei's crystal glowed as she accessed her stored memories. Many of the ships should still be operational. The Triad built them to last, but they'll need crews, and the weapons systems require coordination between multiple species to function at full effectiveness. What do you mean? Helen asked. The most powerful weapons were designed to be operated by mixed crews, Zaraketh explained. Human intuition, elven empathy, and alien logic working together. It was one of the Alliance's greatest innovations, and one of the reasons we were able to fight the Devourers for so long. Maya realized what they were suggesting. To use this ancient fleet effectively, humanity would need to rebuild the old Alliance. They would need to convince dozens of different species to work together against a threat that most of them had never heard of. Will you help us? Maya asked. Will you help humanity prepare for what's coming? Lyrelai and Zaraketh looked at each other. Something passed between them, an understanding born from shared loss and the weight of their responsibilities. Captain Maya Thompson, Lyrelai said formally. On behalf of the fallen Triad Alliance, I offer you and your people our knowledge, our technology, and our commitment to defend this galaxy against the Devourer threat. Zaraketh nodded agreement. The war is not over. It's just beginning again, but this time we'll be ready. Maya stood in the communication center of the UES Horizon, staring at the most important message she would ever send. Behind her, Lyrelai and Zaraketh waited quietly. Dr. Helen Rivers and Commander Lisa Park worked at their stations, preparing to broadcast across human space and beyond. Are you certain about this? Maya asked, turning to face her new allies. Once we send this message, there's no going back. Every species in this part of the galaxy will know about the fleet and the Devourer threat. Lyrelai nodded, her hand resting on her memory crystal. The old Alliance succeeded because we shared information freely. Secrets and mistrust led to the downfall of many civilizations. Zaraketh's scales showed a determined orange color. My people have a saying, a lone hunter feeds only herself, but a hunting pack feeds the entire tribe. Humanity cannot face the Devourers alone. Maya took a deep breath and activated the transmission system. Her message would reach every human colony, every space station, and every exploration ship within 50 light years. It would also be picked up by several alien species that monitored human communications. This is Captain Maya Thompson of the UES Horizon, she began. I am broadcasting on all frequencies with information critical to the survival of our galaxy. 3 days ago, my crew discovered an abandoned fleet containing technology and knowledge from an ancient alliance of species. We have also confirmed that a threat called the Devourers is approaching our galaxy. I am requesting immediate assistance from all available ships and personnel. She paused, knowing that her next words would sound impossible to most people. We have 2 survivors from this ancient alliance with us. They possess knowledge that could save billions of lives, but they need our help to prepare our defenses. Any ships capable of reaching the coordinates I am transmitting should do so immediately. Time is running short. Maya ended the transmission and looked at her companions. Now we wait and hope someone believes us. They did not have to wait long. Within hours, responses began flooding in from across human space. Most were from military commanders demanding more information. Some came from scientists excited about the discovery. A few were from colony governors asking if they should evacuate their populations. But the response that surprised Maya the most came from an unexpected source. A Kethmoran trader named Veltar, whose species had been trading with humans for only 2 years, sent a message that made everyone on the bridge stop what they were doing. Captain Thompson. Veltar's translated message read, My grandmother told me stories of the Star Guardians who fought the darkness long ago. My people have kept records and artifacts from that time. If you have truly found the Guardian fleet, then the Kethmora will honor our ancient debts. Lyrelai's eyes widened when she heard the message. Star Guardians. That's what some species called the Alliance fleet commanders. Captain, this trader's people might be descendants of our allies. More messages arrived over the next few days. The response was incredible and overwhelming. 3 human battle cruisers were already on their way, along with support ships carrying engineers and scientists. Several alien species that had remained hidden from human contact emerged to offer assistance. The most dramatic arrival came from the Zenth Unity, a collective of insect-like beings that Maya had never heard of. Their delegation leader, a being called Clicktar, communicated through rapid clicking sounds that Lirelei somehow understood perfectly. "She says her people have been waiting for this day for 3,000 years, Lirelei translated. They've been hiding in deep space, maintaining their ships and training their warriors for the return of the Devourers." Zaraketh was impressed. The Zenth were excellent fighters in the Old Alliance. Their coordination in battle was unmatched. As more ships arrived at the ancient fleet's location, Maya found herself facing challenges she had never imagined. Different species had different communication methods, different cultural expectations, and different ideas about how to approach the Devourer threat. The human crews wanted to study everything methodically before taking action. The Keth Mora traders wanted to establish clear agreements about resource sharing. The Zenth Unity simply wanted to begin military preparations immediately. Several smaller species seemed more interested in the advanced technology than in the approaching danger. Maya called a meeting aboard the largest human ship, the battlecruiser UES Liberty. Representatives from 7 different species gathered in the conference room, with Lirelei and Zaraketh helping to translate between different communication methods. "We all know why we're here," Maya began. "The Devourers are coming, and we need to work together to stop them. But first we need to figure out how to operate this ancient fleet." Admiral Kate Morrison, the commanding officer of the Liberty, looked skeptical. "Captain Thompson, with respect, most of these ships are 3,000 years old. Even if they still function, how do we know they'll be effective against a modern Devourer force?" Zaraketh answered before Maya could speak. "Admiral, your modern weapons would not even scratch a Devourer ship's hull. Their technology adapts to counter any attack method within minutes. The Alliance weapons were specifically designed to overcome that adaptation." Lirelei activated a holographic display that showed technical specifications from her memory crystal. "The key is the multi-species crew requirement. Devourer hive minds can predict the actions of any single species, but they cannot predict the combined intuition, emotion, and logic of multiple species working together." Clicktar of the Zenth Unity made rapid clicking sounds. Lirelei translated. "She wants to know how we select crews for the ancient ships." "That's going to be our biggest challenge," Maya admitted. "We need volunteers who can work closely with beings from completely different cultures, language barriers, different atmospheres, different food requirements, different social customs." Dr. Helen Rivers had been quietly studying data from the ancient fleet. "I think I have an idea," she said. "The ship's computer systems are incredibly advanced. They seem designed to help different species work together. Look at these environmental controls. Each ship can maintain multiple atmosphere types simultaneously. The food synthesizers can produce nutrition suitable for dozens of different biological needs." Lisa Park nodded agreement. "I've been studying the engine systems on some of the ancient ships. They're amazing. The user interfaces adapt to whoever is operating them. When I touched the controls, they reconfigured themselves for human hands and human thought patterns." Lirelei smiled for the first time since awakening. The Alliance engineers spent decades perfecting those systems. They called it adaptive harmony technology. Over the following weeks, Maya watched something remarkable happen. The mixed crews that began training on the ancient ships struggled. At first, humans and Keth Mora argued about tactical approaches. Zenth Unity members had trouble understanding why other species needed rest periods. The crystalline beings called Velnari communicated so slowly that real-time coordination seemed impossible. But gradually, things began to change. Human creativity helped solve technical problems that had puzzled other species. Keth Mora trading. Skills proved excellent for managing resources and supplies. Zenth Unity discipline helped establish effective training routines. The Velnari's slow, careful thinking prevented dangerous mistakes. Maya found herself learning as much as anyone. Working with Lirelei taught her that leadership sometimes meant listening more than speaking. Zaraketh showed her that different perspectives could lead to better strategies than any single approach. The breakthrough came when the first mixed crew successfully activated the weapons system on one of the crystal ships. Maya watched from the observation deck as beams of energy unlike anything she had ever seen lit up empty space, creating patterns of light that seemed almost alive. "It's working," Lirelei said, standing beside her. "The ship recognizes the crew as legitimate Alliance members." Zaraketh's scales showed a color Maya had learned meant satisfaction. 3 humans, 2 Kethmora, 1 Zenth, and 1 Velnari, all working as one unit. The Devourers will not be expecting this. Maya nodded, but she knew they still had enormous challenges ahead. Training mixed crews was just the beginning. They needed to coordinate an entire fleet, establish supply lines, and somehow convince even more species to join their cause. "How many ships do we have operational now?" Maya asked Lisa, who had become the fleet's chief technical coordinator. 47 ships with trained crews, Lisa replied. Another 120 ships that are functional but still need crews. We're getting volunteers from more species every day, but training takes time. Maya looked out at the ancient fleet, where lights now glowed in dozens of ships that had been dark for thousands of years. It was progress, but she wondered if it would be enough when the Devourers finally arrived. The alarm bells on the UES Liberty were deafening. Maya ran toward the command center, her heart pounding with dread she had hoped never to feel. After 3 months of training and preparation, the moment they had all feared had arrived. "Report!" Maya demanded as she entered the bustling command center. Admiral Morrison looked grim. "Long-range sensors have detected a massive fleet approaching the Kepler colony. The energy signatures match what your allies described for Devourer ships." Maya felt ice in her veins. Kepler colony was home to over 2 million people, including many families with children. It was also one of humanity's most important agricultural worlds, supplying food to dozens of other colonies. Lyrelay and Zaraketh arrived moments later, both looking as worried as Maya felt. Lyrelay's memory crystal was glowing brightly as she accessed tactical information from the ancient database. "How many ships?" Zaraketh asked, her scales shifting to the dark red color that meant battle readiness. "Our best estimate is 300 Devourer vessels," Admiral Morrison replied. "They'll reach Kepler in 18 hours. Lyrelay consulted her crystal data. 300 ships is a significant force, but not their full strength. This is probably a testing attack to see how we respond." Maya turned to Lisa Park, who was coordinating with the ancient fleet. "How many ships do we have ready for combat?" 67 ships with fully trained mixed crews, Lisa replied quickly. "Another 30 ships with crews that have completed basic training but haven't worked together very long." Zaraketh was already analyzing tactical options. 97 ships against 300. Poor odds, but not impossible if we use proper alliance tactics." Maya made her decision quickly. "Send word to all ships. We're going to Kepler colony. This is what we've been preparing for." The next few hours were chaotic as the mixed fleet prepared for its first real battle. Maya chose to command from the ancient flagship, a massive crystal ship that Lyrelay could interface with directly. The bridge crew included herself, Lyrelay, Zaraketh, 2 Kethmora navigators, a Zenth Unity tactical specialist, and Commander Lisa Park. As they approached Kepler colony, Maya could see the Devourer fleet in the distance. The enemy ships were dark and angular, looking more like mechanical insects than vessels built by intelligent beings. They moved in perfect formation, every ship following identical patterns. "Remember what we learned in training," Maya announced to the entire fleet. "Devourer ships adapt to individual attack patterns, but they can't predict coordinated attacks from multiple species thinking differently." The battle began badly. The first wave of Alliance ships attacked using standard human military tactics, and the Devourer ships quickly adapted their defenses. Several Alliance vessels took heavy damage before Maya could order a change in strategy. "They're learning from our attack patterns too quickly," Lisa reported, worry clear in her voice. Zaraketh's tactical display showed the problem clearly. "The crews are thinking too much like their own species. We need true coordination." Lyrelay closed her eyes and connected more deeply with the flagship's systems. "I can feel the other ships through the fleet network. Maya, let me guide the attack patterns through the ancient coordination system." Maya nodded, trusting her friend completely. "Do it." What happened next was unlike anything Maya had ever experienced in combat. Through Lyrelay's connection to the ancient fleet network, Maya could sense the thoughts and intentions of crews throughout the entire Alliance force. Human intuition, Kethmora adaptability, Zenth Unity precision, and Velnari patience all blended together into something greater than any individual species could achieve. the Alliance ships began moving like dancers in a carefully choreographed performance. When Devourer ships adapted to counter human-style attacks, Zenth Unity crews immediately switched to insect swarm tactics. When the enemy adjusted to those patterns, Keth Mora traders used unpredictable merchant-style maneuvers. The Devourers couldn't keep up with the constantly changing approaches. "It's working!" Lisa shouted with excitement. "Their adaptation systems are overloading!" Maya watched as the ancient weapons finally showed their true power. Beams of energy that seemed almost alive struck Devourer ships, and instead of adapting to counter them, the enemy vessels simply died. Their dark hulls cracked and went silent, but the victory came at a cost. The Alliance fleet was still outnumbered, and coordinating so many different species in real combat was exhausting for everyone involved. Several Alliance ships were badly damaged when their mixed crews lost synchronization at critical moments. "We can't maintain this level of coordination much longer," Zaraketh warned, her scales showing the deep purple color that meant exhaustion. Maya could feel it too. The mental strain of working through the ancient fleet network was unlike anything she had experienced, but they were winning. The Devourer formation was breaking apart as more enemy ships fell to the Alliance weapons. Then something unexpected happened. The remaining Devourer ships suddenly stopped attacking and began retreating toward the edge of the system. Maya's first instinct was to pursue them, but Lyrelei grabbed her arm. "No," Lyrelei said urgently. "Don't follow them. This was just a probe. They got what they came for." "What do you mean?" Maya asked. Zaraketh understood immediately. "They were studying our tactics and technology. Now they'll take that information back to the main hive mind." Maya felt a chill of realization. They had won the battle, but they had also revealed their capabilities to the enemy. The next Devourer attack would be much more dangerous because the hive mind would know exactly what it was facing. The Alliance fleet limped back to Kepler Colony to make repairs and tend to their wounded. Maya stood on the observation deck of the flagship, looking out at the damaged ships and thinking about what they had learned. Lyrelei joined her, looking exhausted but determined. "The coordination worked, Maya. For the first time in 4,000 years, the Alliance fleet network functioned exactly as it was designed to." "But it nearly killed us," Maya replied. "How did your people manage to fight for 1,000 years if every battle was this draining?" "Practice," Zaraketh said, approaching them with her scales showing a tired but satisfied blue. "The original Alliance crews trained together for years. They could maintain fleet coordination for days at a time." Maya nodded, but she was thinking about bigger problems. "We saved Kepler Colony, but now the Devourers know we're here. They know about the ancient fleet, and they know we can hurt them." Lyrelei's memory crystal glowed as she accessed historical data. When the original Alliance first proved they could fight the Devourers effectively, the hive mind responded by sending massive fleets to destroy us quickly. We should expect the same response. "How massive?" Maya asked, though she wasn't sure she wanted to know the answer. Zaraketh consulted her own tactical memories. "The largest single fleet the Devourers ever sent against us contained over 10,000 ships." Maya stared out at their 97-ship fleet, many of which were still damaged from the battle. 10,000 Devourer ships against less than 100 Alliance vessels. Even with the ancient technology, those were impossible odds. "Then we need more ships and more allies," Maya said firmly. "The Battle of Kepler Colony just became our recruitment demonstration." Lisa Park approached with a datapad full of sensor readings. "Captain, I'm picking up new energy signatures throughout the galaxy. Dozens of species that we've never heard of are powering up their ships and moving toward this sector." Maya raised an eyebrow. "Hostile or friendly?" "Unknown," Lisa replied. "But some of the energy signatures match ancient Alliance designs. I think word of this battle has spread further than we expected." Lyrelei smiled for the second time since Maya had met her. The old Alliance wasn't just humans, elves, and Nexari. There were dozens of member species. If some of them survived and have been hiding all this time, Zaraketh's scales shifted to a hopeful orange color. "Then maybe we have a chance after all." Maya looked out at the stars, knowing that somewhere in the darkness, the Devourer hive mind was planning its response to this defeat. But for the first time since discovering the ancient fleet, she felt something she hadn't dared to feel before: hope. Maya stood before the largest gathering of alien species in galactic history. The ancient fleet had become a meeting place for civilizations that had hidden in the far reaches of space for thousands of years. Representatives from over 40 different species filled the massive hangar bay of the restored Alliance flagship. In the 3 weeks since the battle at Kepler Colony, everything had changed. Species that humans had never heard of emerged from hidden colonies and secret bases, all carrying fragments of ancient Alliance technology and knowledge. The Velthari brought ships that could bend space itself. The Mordun offered warriors who had been training for generations to fight the Devourers. The crystalline Charlin possessed weapons that could disrupt hive mind communications. "The time for hiding is over," Maya announced to the assembled delegates, her voice carrying through translation devices to dozens of different species. "The Devourers have found us, and they know we can fight them. Our choice now is simple. We stand together, or we fall separately." Lyrelai stood beside Maya, her role having evolved from awakened survivor to diplomatic coordinator for the new Alliance. Her memory crystal contained not just technical knowledge, but detailed records of how the original Triad Alliance had functioned. She understood the political and cultural challenges of keeping dozens of species working together. Zaraketh had become the military coordinator, her tactical genius proving essential for integrating the diverse combat styles and technologies of all the member species. Her scales showed a steady gold color that Maya had learned meant confident leadership. A delegate from the insectoid Hethron collective clicked rapidly, and Lyrelai translated. "They want to know about command structure. Who will lead this new alliance?" Maya had been dreading this question. In the original alliance, leadership had been shared among the founding species, but that had taken decades to develop. They didn't have decades now. "I propose a rotating command structure," Maya said carefully. "For this immediate crisis, I'll serve as Supreme Commander, with Lyrelai as Chief Diplomatic Coordinator and Zaraketh as Strategic Defense Director. As we prove ourselves and build trust, leadership can become more shared." The response was mixed. Some species seemed comfortable with human leadership, remembering the old alliance fondly. Others were suspicious, wondering if this was a human attempt to dominate the galaxy. A few seemed indifferent as long as the military preparations continued effectively. The Velthari representative, a being of living crystal named Threshold Song, spoke in harmonious tones that needed no translation. "The star patterns say this human carries the weight of all species in her heart. We will follow her until the darkness is defeated." Over the following days, Maya found herself managing challenges she had never imagined. The Zenth unity required precise schedules for everything, while the Kethmora traders preferred flexible arrangements. The crystalline Charlin communicated so slowly that real-time decisions were difficult, but their patient analysis often revealed problems others had missed. Dr. Helen Rivers had become invaluable in helping different species understand each other's biological and cultural needs. She worked with engineering teams to modify ships so they could support mixed crews with wildly different environmental requirements. Commander Lisa Park led the massive technical integration project, combining technologies from dozens of civilizations into coherent fleet operations. The ancient Alliance ships served as templates, but the new fleet incorporated innovations that the original Alliance had never imagined. The real test came when long-range sensors detected the Devourer response force. It was exactly what Zaraketh had predicted. Over 8,000 ships were moving toward their position, a fleet so large it would show up on gravitational sensors from several star systems away. "How many ships do we have now?" Maya asked during an emergency command meeting. 412 vessels with trained crews, Lisa reported. Another 200 ships that are functional but need more crew training time. Zaraketh's tactical analysis was sobering. 8,000 against 600. Even with our advantages, those odds are very poor. But Lyrelai had been studying something in her memory crystal that gave Maya hope. "The original Alliance faced similar odds during the Battle of the Seven Suns," she said. "They won by using the Devourer's greatest strength against them." "What do you mean?" Maya asked. "The hive mind's perfect coordination becomes a weakness when you can disrupt their communications," Lyrelai explained. The Charlin communication disruptors can create interference that forces individual devourer ships to think for themselves. Without the hive mind's guidance, they become much less effective. Maya began to see the strategy. So we don't try to fight 8,000 ships. We break them into smaller groups and fight hundreds of separate battles. Zaraketh's scales shifted to an excited orange. Exactly. And our mixed crews are perfect for that kind of chaotic combat. We can adapt to changing situations much faster than isolated devourer ships can. The Battle of the Ancient Fleet began 3 days later. Maya commanded from the flagship, surrounded by the most diverse bridge crew in galactic history. The coordination network that Lirale had perfected now connected over 600 ships crewed by dozens of different species. The Devourer fleet approached in their typical perfect formation, expecting to overwhelm the Alliance through sheer numbers. But as soon as they entered range, the Charlin ships activated their communication disruptors. The effect was immediate and dramatic. The perfect Devourer formation began to break apart as individual ships lost contact with the hive mind. Without central coordination, they reverted to basic survival instincts, each ship acting independently. Now, Maya commanded, and the Alliance fleet struck. What followed was not a single large battle, but hundreds of smaller engagements throughout the star system. Mixed Alliance crews used their cultural diversity and ancient technology to devastating effect. When human intuition suggested an unexpected maneuver, Zenth Unity precision made it flawless. When Kethmora creativity found a tactical opportunity, Velthari space-bending technology exploited it perfectly. Maya watched through the fleet network as impossible victories played out across the battlefield. A single Alliance ship crewed by humans, Mordan warriors, and crystalline Velnari destroyed 5 Devourer vessels by using tactics no single species could have conceived. The battle lasted for 18 hours, but the outcome became clear much earlier. Cut off from their hive mind, individual Devourer ships were no match for the coordinated creativity of the Alliance fleet. By the end, over 7,000 Devourer ships had been destroyed, with fewer than 300 Alliance losses. As the surviving Devourer ships retreated toward deep space, Maya felt something she had never expected. Not just victory, but the knowledge that they had created something unprecedented. A galactic alliance that was stronger and more unified than anything that had existed before. Lirale stood beside her on the flagship's observation deck, watching the celebration lights of 600 different ships. The original alliance fought defensively for 1,000 years, she said, always reacting to Devourer attacks, always trying to save what we could. Zaraketh joined them, her scales showing the deep blue of satisfaction and the gold of leadership combined. This new alliance is different. We're not just defending. We're taking the fight to them. Maya nodded, looking out at the fleet that represented dozens of species working together in ways their ancestors had never imagined. The ancient fleet didn't just shift the fate of the stars, she realized. It showed us what we could become when we choose cooperation over conflict. Over the following months, the alliance continued to grow. More hidden civilizations emerged to join them. The Devourer hive mind, for the first time in its existence, found itself retreating rather than advancing. System after system was liberated. From Devourer control as the Alliance fleet proved that the ancient enemy could be defeated. Maya often thought about how far she had come from that routine exploration mission. She had set out to map empty space, and instead had found a family among the stars. Working with Liralai had taught her that leadership meant bringing out the best in others. Zaraketh had shown her that different perspectives made every plan stronger. But most importantly, she had learned that humanity's greatest gift was not their technology or their fighting ability. It was their talent for building bridges between different peoples, for finding common ground where others saw only differences. The war against the Devourers was far from over. There were other galaxies where the hive mind still held power, other civilizations that needed liberation. But for the first time in thousands of years, the tide was turning. Maya stood on the bridge of the flagship, surrounded by friends from a dozen different worlds, looking out at a fleet that represented hope for the entire galaxy. The abandoned ships, she had discovered, had become the foundation for something greater than any single species could achieve. The stars themselves seemed brighter now, filled with the light of cooperation, friendship, and the knowledge that no darkness could stand against peoples united in common cause. The fate of the stars had indeed shifted, not through the power of ancient weapons, but through the simple choice to stand together.